Do you remember my last video where I used ChatGPT to create a complete Android app from start to finish? Oh yeah, it wrote about 97 to 98% of the code I needed, and my developer fingers filled in that last 2 to 3%. And I walked away with a blockbuster to-do app that is totally dominating the Play Store. Well, we're going to repeat that experiment with Bard. No, not Bard the Bowman from The Hobbit, but Google Bard, Google's answer to ChatGPT that spells ruin for OpenAI. I mean, I asked Bard if it's better than ChatGPT, and it was basically like, oh yeah, come at me, bro. I even understand code better than ChatGPT. You know what that means? You bet. We're going to have Google Bard try to build the exact same Android app using the exact same prompts and see what we get. Hopefully that means I get to keep my job. But Google should know how to build an Android app, right? Like the previous video, I'm going to time this whole thing, and if you'd like to follow along, there are links down in the description to the repository and the prompts I'll be using. Just so you know what we're planning to build, let's take a look at the app that I built in the previous video with ChatGPT and my good friend Elon Musk. This app was called To-Do GPT, and of course we're going to call this one something different, and I'll leave you to decide what that's going to be called. It's obviously just a to-do app, and everything lives on a single screen. Let's take a look at this fab down here. As you can see right now, I have no tasks on this app. But if I press this fab, I'm going to get a dialog that comes up, and let's put in something like this. First, this will be my first task I'm going to complete. I'll hit OK, and you can see it shows up on the list. And let's do this one more time, and we'll do a second task. Just like this. Hit OK, and you can see everything that's on here I can check or uncheck, just like this. Let's go ahead and leave this second one checked. I'm going to go ahead and close the app entirely, open it back up. As you can see, everything lives just like it did before. So this is all being persisted inside of a room database. I can add tasks. I can delete tasks by pressing and holding, observing the dialog, hitting OK, and the task deletes. Now I don't have any editing functionality. I have add, delete, and preserve. This is all done by ChatGPT. Now, Google Bard, can you do the same thing? Now let's start off by giving Bard the exact same prompts that I gave ChatGPT. For the record, Bard will be starting from the exact same starting point as ChatGPT, which is just a blank project with just a few added dependencies inside of Gradle that are going to be needed most likely based on the prompts that I'm giving it. Now, let's go ahead and get started. Right now I have Android Studio open, I have Bard open, and I have my timer. Now the timer's going to go ahead and start now, and we'll keep an eye on this up in the top right corner, just like this. Here are the prompts that I'm going to give it. Now, these prompts you can find from a link down in the description below. So I'm going to go ahead and copy these out of here, paste it in, and see what it gives us. First prompt went in, copy, and paste that second one in. Okay, so far it's having me just do some very basic things that it's actually not giving me any code on how to do. Let's go ahead and see, can you help me create a room database? Okay, so create a new class and extend the room database. And it doesn't know what most of these things are, which isn't a surprise so far. So let's see if it's helping us fill us out. Okay, perfect. So now it's having us create the to-do DAO. Okay, so now I need a to-do object. Did it define how to do that? Okay, so I don't have a to-do object at all. Show me how to build a to-do object for the database. Let's see what it does. Okay, so far it's going a little bit overboard with this parcelable stuff. Normally I could just say @parcelizable and I wouldn't need to implement equals or hash code or anything like that, but okay, it's not technically wrong, so we'll just keep going with that. Paste it all in, and let's see if I'm missing any dependencies still. So far it looks like there's a bit of an issue here with the read string. I would never recommend this in production, but let's just go ahead and move past this point and just go ahead and add some bangs at the end of this, just like so. So everything from a database perspective, fingers crossed, should be looking pretty good. And let's see what it has for us to do for the view. So we've created the room database. Now we need a view model. Okay, so I'm going to do that before I jump to the view. Show me how to implement the to-do view model. Go ahead and just copy this part right here. Go ahead and paste that in. Okay, so there were no errors here so far. Let's keep on going. So it looks like so far we are on step 4. Now it's going to step 5. Let's go ahead and create a UI for this. So I'm going to create a new file called todoscreen.kt, paste in the code snippet that it gave me. Looks like we're hitting a very similar snag here that ChatGPT ran into. So we're seeing this big error that we're seeing right here. It's complaining that we're not actually using the padding values that's provided by the scaffold. So let's go ahead and put our engineering hat on. Let's just go ahead and solve this really quick. So we're going to wrap everything inside of a box and then use the padding modifier to be able to use this value. Okay, so you can see that took care of the big issue that we have. There's a couple things that are still not fully working. So let's see what we have here. Okay, so we have to opt in for experimental APIs. So I'm going to propagate that up to the top. And we had to do the exact same thing with ChatGPT, to be fair. Moving on down here, you can see there's a couple things that aren't working properly. So let's go ahead over to Bard and figure out what's going on here. The task property on the view model doesn't have a collect as state function, so the code does not compile. Can you help me fix that? Okay, so it looks like it's made a couple changes here, just like this. So this is a live data property. So let me copy out just this part right here, which seems relevant. You can see even though I got rid of what was there before, it's saying that this actually needs to be a type job, not a live data. So it looks like it's saying it shouldn't be doing viewModelScope.launch. Let's go ahead and do this really quick. Let's get rid of this launch. I'm going to get rid of collect_state. That's also not working, so let's go ahead and make this live data. So despite that change, it looks like it's still not happy. The correct way to do this is if I got rid of this equal sign and said by, then I could say tasks.observe as state, just like this. And then I have to provide a default value, which in this case we'll say will just be an empty list of tasks. You don't want anything inside of that list. Scrolling down a bit more, this is also problematic here. So we're going to have to change tasks.value to the total number of tasks, which would be something like task.size. And here I'm going to have to say tasks, and let's go ahead and rename this to index. So I need to pull the exact index off of that tasks array. All right, so it's only taken me a second. I've gone through and replaced all of the tasks with task index to make sure it's referring to the proper value. I'll go ahead and close that for reference, and let's see here. On task complete. Well, if we go look at the view model, it actually just is complete task. We don't need on task completed, so I'll say task. So in this case, it will be referring to the ID, just like that. Okay, and then obviously we have the add task button is completely empty. But I wanted this to be a fab. I want the button in the main UI composable to be a fab, not a button. How do I fix that? Scrolling down, okay, so it says just change the button to a fab. I don't believe that is correct. I'm actually going to take and cut this out and leave this for the main content below. So we have the top app bar. Next thing we're going to need is the floating action button. And we don't need this modifier for the alignment anymore. How do I implement the onClick handler in the fab to open a dialog with a text field asking me for the task to add to the list? Okay, interesting. So this is a little bit more. So I'm going to copy just the onClick here. As you can see, we're running into an issue even though everything has been imported. The first thing I'm seeing here is that it says this composable can only happen from inside the context of an @composable function. Okay, so that changes something a little bit here because if we look at this onClick inside of the floating action button, it is indeed not a composable. So one way that we can take care of this is inside of here, we can actually have a flag that we go ahead and rotate. So I've got my new variable up at the top. I'll go ahead and copy that variable and paste it inside of the onClick handler for the fab. Instead of trying to put this inside of the onClick, I'll put this inside of this entire block, which is indeed a composable, and then I'll just surround it with an if check. That way I don't even have to have this dialog show. This seems like to be an odd mix between traditional dialogues and composable dialogues that it seems to be conflating a bit here. But as you can see, things are just really not working properly. We're not able to build a dialogue. So let's go ahead and move on from this and see if we can get other parts of this right. So far, we're at 28 minutes, so we're already past the time of ChatGPT, but maybe it can redeem itself and get us a functioning app or mostly functioning app by the end. So let's see if it can ask us to do something else. How do I implement a long press in the list to show a dialog asking me if I want to delete a task in the list? Let's scroll down here and say, okay, so it looks like we've got an on long click here. We'll see. Again, if this is the same thing as before, this is actually not going to allow me to create a composable, and it looks like it's still going for the old-fashioned way. So I pasted that in, and as I suspected, this isn't going to work. And as you look at it, it makes total sense. All we have here is an items block where I can have a checkbox, a text field, and now it's asking me if I want to arbitrarily add a new property inside of there. Well, no, actually, the way you would normally do something like this is maybe you'd go back here, and then you could put all this inside of a row. And on the row, you could have this property called onLongClick, and that would be one of the things that you could add to it, sort of like you could add modifiers and different things like that. And then inside of that row, you would add your checkbox and the text and everything like that. So again, it took the wrong approach again, even though we were very specific in what we wanted. So far, Google Bard has 2 strikes against it. It can't add a task, it can't delete a task, but maybe it can do this third thing and help us finish setting up this database. So here we are at 33 minutes. I'd like to see if it can implement this to-do database. This is the last thing I'm going to ask for it to do, but it should be able to do this rather quickly. It only takes about 15 lines of code in order to get this thing done. The to-do database class doesn't create a database. Can you show me how to implement the database instance creation? Ah, interesting. So this seems to be a little bit more in line with what I would expect. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and copy everything here, again, except for the imports. Looks like everything is good to go. Now let's see if we can go ahead and use this. Now let's jump up one more layer. I'm going to go to the view model, and instead of asking for a to-do DAO, just like this, I'm going to clear out this constructor. And let's go ahead and make a private val where we get the instance of the database, and then we provide the to-do DAO. So that looks something like this. Of course, I do require a context, so actually I'm going to go back up to the top here. Let's go ahead and add in a private val. Okay, so the context is in there. In fact, great, I actually don't even need this to be a private val. So now on the to-do screen, and this is pretty broken, but let's jump up one more and pretend the screen doesn't exist. Let's go out to the main activity. I don't even think it told me to implement this anywhere. That's a big thing to miss. That's pretty much your entire application that has absolutely nothing going on at this point. So let's go ahead and do this. So the thing that we're going to do, just like this, and then the view model we can reference by getting it like this. So I've imported the to-do view model just like this. I'm going to go ahead and drop this down below just like so. So now I've imported the to-do view model. It is now attached to the screen. And now I've just stopped the timer. You can see we've stopped just shy of 40 minutes and we have like an working application. So unfortunately, it looks like I'm gonna have to end this on a bit of a downer because it looks like ChatGPT did a much better job than Bard did with far less nudging. To recap, we started off by looking at the app that ChatGPT built and used that as our target as we built our app with Bard. Unfortunately, most of Bard's answers were pretty vague, so I had to keep pulling more information out of it with additional prompts. I started to fix some of the errors in the code that it gave me, but it wasn't long before we hit a roadblock. It wasn't able to show me how to add a task according to my specifications or delete a task, but at least it was able to show me how to finish setting up the database. So that much was a win. So even though both ChatGPT and Bard had the exact same starting positions, unfortunately, the end results were very different. ChatGPT went on to publish its application to the Google Play Store and became famous because its application was so popular, it rivaled TikTok. And Bard is still trying to figure out how to get that exact same application to even build. So that begs the question, is AI coming to replace your job or to assist your job? Well, I explored that a little bit over here in this video. I definitely recommend you check it out. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Is AI an assistant or a replacement? Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week on TLDR Android.